welcome, Karen, to our interview, which will take about 10, 15 minutes, a little pre-chat and a little after chat. Uh, can you tell people that are watching this, a little bit about yourself, where you are and what you do,
Sure.
what you have done?
Okay, I'm Karen. I live in New Jersey. I grew up in Rochester, New York, and I've been an
Hey.
artist all my life. And
Mhm.
I've actually always wanted to be an artist. I always just considered myself an artist, not what are you going to be when you grow up. My dad was an artist, and there was artists all over my mother and my father's family.
Oh,
And when I got to college, my dad suggested that I major in art, but minor in education. And at the time, I said I would never want to be a teacher. And I said, well, all right, I'll give it a try. I gave it a try, fell in love with teaching. I became an art educator and I taught the public schools. And while I was teaching, I was always doing my own artwork and selling it in Greenwich Village, and then in California and Rochester, all over the country. And then I came to a period where I stopped teaching in the public school to have children. And I wound up getting widowed very young. I was 35 years old. And a year later, remarrying a man with three kids to my two kids. So we raised the Brady Bunch. And then I began teaching. I started my own art school in a little building in this little town. And then I got a partner and we moved to a few buildings, and she taught crafts and I taught art. And then maybe, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, I said, this is enough. Well, I had moved to the country at this point to have a horse farm to move my horses. And at that point, I was teaching in these schools, and then I let it go. And so now I basically teach. Well, my real job when it's not COVID is I teach in 3 assisted living facilities, and I do it on a very individualized basis with these people, working on their strengths and if they prefer crafts or they prefer really true fine arts. And then I teach children at my gallery,
oh,
and I do dioramas, which are 3 dimensional little scenes, and I do clayoramas, which are little tiny clay. And I'm extremely active in my local art gallery and showing there.
whoa, it's quite a repertoire you have, and the horses, and the children, and the grandchildren. Oh, that's wonderful. But when
Thank
you
you.
look back on something that, a project you have, maybe when you started your art school, or maybe when your first time you worked at the, in elder care, those some type of thing that was, you were uncertain about how it would be. It was maybe difficult, but in the end, it worked out. What's the first thing that pops into your mind?
The first thing that pops in my mind is a project that I just finished that was
Mhm.
quite a challenge.
Okay.
I had illustrated a book for a woman on Hanukkah in it's maybe 17, 18 years ago. And she approached me to do another book. And I was kind of, I'd already said no once to her. And then she said, this time I'm going to pay you, not a whole lot of money. And I kept putting it off. And I finally said, okay, I will do the book for you. I'll illustrate the book. And it's a book she wrote about her granddaughter. And then COVID hit, and she was writing me all these texts. Are you starting my book? This is a perfect time because you're furloughed. But I just couldn't get myself to do it. So I wound up doing this clay sculpture that's kind of huge it's about a dime store, because I grew up loving 5 and dime stores in Rochester. And she kept pressuring me. I finally started. And it was a lot of pressure because I asked her to have her granddaughter, take pictures of her doing things. So I have a model. I can work out the shading, the background. And she sent me 6, 7 photographs, and I, put them on the computer. And then all of a sudden she stopped. I said, I need more. She said, no, my granddaughter's done. And her granddaughter's name is Emmy. Well, my granddaughter's name is Emmy. So I started using my granddaughter. And then she said, I don't like the face, change the face. And I had to decide what kind of drawing and what style to do. And then she wanted color. And it was just a real challenge. I couldn't motivate myself to just get this book done. And then all of a sudden
Mm.
it just clicked. And I got into the groove and I finished the book. And actually, I just had the drawings put into JPEGs, high resolution, and I just sent it. I had them send it off to her. I'm done. But it was a challenge to get myself motivated to do it and to do it. And it's a good
Well,
feeling now.
when you say the things clicked, what do you mean by that, and how did you get there?
Because I'm a procrastinator, and it's always like if there's a deadline, I don't know if I enjoy the adrenaline rush or something, but I always wait to the last minute. And all of a sudden, my body, my mind, and my soul said, this is kind of like the last minute. You've been at this a year and a half. You really need to do this. And all of a sudden, I just started drawing, and then I just found myself wanting to draw and wanting to do these drawings for her and actually enjoying it.
how did you get to want to draw? That's a hard question, but
It is a hard question because I found the style, I found a face that she wanted, which is a face I created actually.
hmm,
It's a face I've been drawing for years. And I just found the style that worked, like not because I work in pointillism, which is high detail, which is
mhm,
stippling. So I had to find a style that didn't go crazy with the black and white ink, or it would take me so long, and just like modified shading, and then working with washes to do the color. And all of a sudden, like I started really enjoying it because I knew that the pressure wasn't really intense pressure because she's self-publishing a book about her granddaughter. It's not like,
hmm.
I have a huge deadline, but I don't know. All of a sudden I started really enjoying it because I found the style I wanted, the way to do the colors, the face she wanted. And then I started redoing ones that I didn't like. That's how much I started liking it because I love to draw. So it's done.
Okay. But I've heard you say that, finding a groove or the click point, so to speak, and being
Hmm.
motivated are very important to you. A little pressure helps as well, a little bit of a deadline. Uh, but also something called the style, and which is something I recognize because I can't write my books if I haven't found my style. And that can take a year. Each book takes like a year of, okay, and when I get that, then there's no problem writing the book. But that has to come
Right.
first. And I hear you saying that. But I also imagine that you're a person who likes the process. You like the experimenting.
No, I do. And I've always loved to draw. I mean, I don't remember not drawing. Well, I do, but it's been a long time.
but is it the drawing or the experimenting or the creative process that?
Actually, it's the creative process where I get a vision, and it's usually like hypnagogic vision at night or something, like when I'm creating a diorama, for instance,
Uh,
and I kind of create the spatial distances and what I want to do, and if it's going to be surreal, which it usually is, kind of magical realism. And then I have this vision, and it's so exciting to me. And then to do a diorama, it's like each drawing has to be done, and then I have to have it scanned and dry mounted and cut in layers. It's a long, tedious process, but the vision is what it's in my head. It's what inspires me and motivates me. And then the whole process is so much fun. And it always changes. The vision's always slightly different.
all right.
But I
But
think my problem with the book is I couldn't get a vision because it was her vision. And I'm trying to figure out what her vision is. And she said, no, I wanted to have the table that they have in their house. I'm like, send me pictures.
okay. So the challenge actually was, converting another person's vision to your own vision. And when you've got that
Absolutely.
transfer, then you're on track. But what you're describing is an inner process. I mean, I also recognize this. I mean, this work in your head a lot, and then experiment. It's like working in your head and then out, trying to get out of yourself.
Right.
Oh, my dog in the background.
Oh, I
Of
don't hear
course, it's always good when you record the dog as well.
her. My dog's here somewhere.
So
I'm
if we
sequestered
look at
in the
a
studio.
challenge that you have ahead of you, something that you say, oh, well, I'm not sure I want to do this, or I have to do this, or I'm not sure how it will work out. What would be an example of that?
I think the challenge I face is when COVID's over with. And
Mm,
the challenge is, do I go back to teaching,
mhm,
or do I just become my own world with my own artwork?
mhm,
It's like, yeah, I'm 71 years old, but retirement isn't a word I really use. My dad and mom both lived to be 100. My dad was doing artwork when he was 98. But it's this question because now that I'm not teaching, I'm doing artwork every day, and I need to do, and it's wonderful. So I guess my challenge is, can I economically, can I survive without the teaching money that I make? I'm not gonna get, because we're getting unemployment in this country like crazy, and I'm living on it. It's great. I mean, it's not great, but I mean, I can survive on it. But I'm not going to have that, because I'll be able to go back to work. So I think it's like reinventing myself or going back to the old paradigm is the challenge I had.
okay, but if you're going to reinvent yourself, how will you do that reinvention? I mean, it doesn't mean, for me, it's not important to know exactly what you're going to do, but what is your reinvention process? And can you see a similarity between what you just described with this person, bring their vision to your vision with the reinventing yourself? Do you see any similarities in that process you'll have to go through?
I, I, yes, yes and no. I think all my life I've envisioned at some point in my life I would just be an artist. But
Mhm.
when I was in my 20s and 30s and on, it was always, how can I be an artist and make money? So it was teaching. And I love teaching. I have a passion for teaching. Don't get me wrong. But I see myself as saying no thank you to these people if I have the courage to. And they're all begging me to come back already. Like, oh, please come back. And they've asked me to make movies of myself to show the residents. And a lot of my residents have died. So it's almost like, do I want to go back? It's going to be like, it's going to be like square one for me, because all the people I loved are gone, most of them in most of the places.
But it sounds to me like you're almost made a decision, but you're on the way to to looking for a way to be on your own. Maybe you will and maybe you won't, but what will help you in that process?
I think what will help me is, I guess it's like if I'm able to create what I want to create artistically wise. And I just see it as a chance to get totally enveloped in my art in a way that I haven't been able to with the teaching, because the teaching, there's always a pressure, you have to practice assignments, you have to get the supplies in the car. I know it sounds silly, but like you could forget something, and if I teach in my own studio, which I was, it was easier that way, but it's a lot of pressure. So to get that pressure out and just be an artist, I think I could get work done that I've been thinking about for years. For instance, the ode to Woolworth's Neisner's that I did. It's called a Dime Store Boogie Woogie, and it took like 4 months to do. And
Like
it's
a
got like the little
model corner
turtles.
Rochester.
Yes. But it's like it was my passion, my dreams coming out. And it's like, maybe I'd like to do shows and be in different galleries than just the local gallery that I'm in. And I just think I'd like to reinvent myself as just the artist. And but I have to have the courage to say no thank you to these people and to give up, like a known income versus, am I going to sell artwork or not?
Okay. Well, we're going to end this in a little bit. I just want to say that from what I'm hearing, process is important to you. And there are some words that come up every once in a while here that are similar in the both situations we talked about. Number one is you're talking to yourself. Also, your inner dialogue is important to you, and that vision is important to you. And then if you're thinking, where am I going to go? And reflecting upon, okay, what style am I going to use? What type of projects am I going to use? What is the structure I'll use for getting these projects done? That will help you make a decision. Oh, I can do this. Uh, and then obviously it's a motivation issue for you. I mean, once you're engaged, you have this fantastic positive energy about things. So it won't be a problem for you to get things done and to do these projects. There may be a problem, selling them, but you're sharing that problem with almost every other person. So that can't stop you. But I understand the issue. So if I were to give some words of wisdom, allow yourself that those inner dialogues and the visions, and go off into your head about, what do I want and where am I going and what gives me energy, and what would things look like, what style of myself, and what's my style as an artist, but also the project style, what type of the artwork works best for you, that gives you most energy, and allow yourself that process, and allow it to take a little time too.
Absolutely.
So looking back, I know I've just probably spent 15 minutes talking about this. What reflections do you have on our conversation? What did you get out of it?
Well, the inner dialogue has been going on a long time about this,
Yeah.
the future of after COVID. And so I think that this discussion has kind of helped me see sort of not like a timeline, because it's almost nonlinear, but it is linear.
Mhm.
Kind of sets it in an order, and it kind of excites me to think that I can allow myself to follow this dream. There's no reason, there's really nothing that can stop me. And I think the conversation is kind of affirming my inner dialogue by having someone say, yeah, that sounds okay.
Well, it does. And I think it's, you're on your way. I mean, you have all this experience, and you have all this competency, and you have all this energy, and you have all these visions, and you know about style, and you know about getting things done, even if you talk about deadlines, but you do get things done. I just have to look what's behind you in this room to know that you get things done. You have hard work, and I have my books.
Pretty much. Yeah, it works.
Yeah. So I wish you luck, and I'm going to end the interview here, and we'll talk a little bit afterwards, but I'm going to stop recording now, and I thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mhm.